What is a mod? What is the purpose of a mod? What is the difference between a mod and a game? Why do mods exist? Why am I even asking these rhetorical questions? Because since this decade began, it seems many of us forgot what mods even are anymore, and the importance behind their very existence. Identity, expression, value. In this video, I will discuss both facts, as well as my own opinion on everything wrong with modding today in the 2020s, through these 3 major points, while also answering the prior 4 questions. Trust me, they are very paramount to those 3 points of this video. A video game mod, short for modification, is the process of alteration by players or fans of one or more aspects of a video game, such as how it looks or behaves, and is a subdiscipline of general modding. Mods may range from small changes and tweaks to complete overhauls and can extend the replay value and interest of the game. Examples of mods are Forgotten Hope 2, Operation Nepali, Black Mesa, Blue Shift, to improve or change the base game material. For instance, if I want to add Thomas the Tank Engine into Skyrim,
What in oblivion is that?
I will have to modify the game to do it. If I want to completely convert Half-Life 2 into a fan-made project based on the Warhammer 40K universe, I will have to create a total conversion. The difference? A mod is reliant on the base game to function at all. A game, on the other hand, is standalone and thus independent, powered exclusively by the game engine it was forged from. There are, however, very few special circumstances that tread into the gray area. These such middleware cases would transform regular mods into standalone mods. Even so, SMs still strictly follow one key principle: reliance. There are 2 I am aware of that comes to mind. 1. Indirect remote reliance. The Source SDK's base runtimes allow projects to potentially rely solely upon them, provided you are willing to make your own original content to use for your project instead. However, they still required you purchase a Valve Steam game to access the SDK. Now, I know not whether this is still the case ever since Team Fortress 2 became free in June 2011. I am aware that this created an unintended accident of making the SDK freely accessible to all users. I am unable to test this myself thus far, since I already bought the Valve games years before this happened, including TF2. moddb's founder Scott Intense Reismanis has even echoed this on the Source Engine page on the site. Assuming this is still true, that effectively means all Source mods that at least solely rely on Source SDK base have consequently become indie games now. As a result, the standalone mod phenomenon has finally been defeated for standalone Valve Source projects. Examples of former standalone mods: pre-free-to-play, Team Fortress 2, Neo Tokyo, Zombie Panic Source. 2. Loophole middleware. There are currently 3 ways I know of to make a Doom project standalone. Only one of them results in a so-called standalone mod. That method is using a loophole IWAD like FreeDoom or FreeDoom 2, freeware loophole alternatives to Doom and Doom 2 respectively. Far as my knowledge is concerned, these games were created as the answer to those who did not wish to rely on others buying the base games just to salvage their IWADs, while still staying under the legal good graces of ID Software at the time of its releases. Examples of its usage: Ashes 2063. Now, here is an example of a project that is not a mod and is just a flat-out imposter masquerading as such. Battle for Middle-earth, Reforged. Here is an example of a mod imposter that at least has been course-corrected as an indie game on that site. Half-Life Beyond. Here is an example of a game of whom its game dev is planning to impersonate a mod on Steam, Portal 64.
Ideally, I'd be distributing the game as a mod for Portal, but I couldn't find a good way to create a mod that really isn't a mod, but just a file. So if I can figure that out, I'll transition to Steam as a mod, but for now, the ROM patch system will work.
Here are examples of scammers that are using their mods to charge money by locking their content behind a paywall subscription. Pure Dark's Starfield, paid DLSS mod, Dark Novism C's UE1 DirectX 11 renderer. I will explain what is wrong with these offenders later in this video. This reason varies between its users, creators, and admirers. For some, they exist to make the base games more fun to play, adding new levels, items, weapons, characters, story, and more. For others, it is to let off some steam and vent their frustrations. For others, it is, or was, an opportunity to create their own project without having to somehow raise a lot of funds to license a game engine to make your own game, or worm your way into a major gaming company to get a chance to use their in-house game engine, using their project as a resume to bait them into hiring them. For others, it was a further escape from reality, which is what gaming initially existed for, except now even that has become a hazardous cesspit, where we're trying to escape from, and until recently, modding was insulated and protected from all of that toxic nightmare that infected gaming. No greedy gambleware to concern you since all mods are supposedly free, and ID politics could not penetrate its way into our creative free empire and threaten creativity. This is whence the second major point of this video comes in. Freedom of expression is important. Even more so is freedom of creativity. Our freedom to create what we want, how we want it, without restrictions or censorship of our vision, no matter how controversial or offensive it may be. Want to make a project about the World Wars, Vietnam War, War on Terror, or Russian-Ukraine War? Do it. A satirical mod about slaying whack jobs like Zoe Quinn via boss battle? Go for it. Don't like the egregious changes an A3 game is forcing against your will? Undo it. Want to stick it to ugly-ass YouTube? Get rid of them. Storm their corporate offices postal style. Tired of dealing with some creeps who has been stalking and terrorizing you for years? Make an ass out of them and turn them into your virtual punching bags or guinea pigs. Same goes for your low-life grade school bullies. Maybe you got abusive family members. Whoever has wronged you in your life, destroy them virtually, 1 pixel at a time. Mods are the best way to do this. They are free, legally gray, and purely a hotspot for passion and expression. Let out your repressed emotions and fantasize the vigilante justice they fucking deserve, or just turn them into a meme clown circus. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Only a butthurt, moral crybaby who treats video games as a threat to be eradicated from existence would have a problem. We still deal with such scumbag cowards today, both from the right and left, even the center. Despite the seemingly endless evidence proving them wrong, they still lack the brain capacity to accept when they are dead wrong, back down and leave us alone. Unfortunately, they refuse to leave us the fuck alone. So much that they have infiltrated our modding world and perverted it from inside out. Many of them are outsiders, some of them masquerading as modders or gamers, who never once respected video games to begin with. Some of them are mod devs or game devs who got indoctrinated by the madness and betrayed the very industry they've served for years. Let us start from 2020. On the moddb front, the then site editor David Kralik, Driver Gom, went and purged many mods and banned many devs from moddb over controversial topics that merely offended him, or his crooked allies, for some odd reason. My friend Goldsteed was suspended just for making a Doom 2 mod called CCP Stein, a mod where the player forms a one-man coup d'etat against the Chinese Communist government.
No, 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 no.
I played the mod. It was fair, mostly character swaps and some new levels, but was a worthwhile experience. I did not even find anything truly offensive in this mod whatsoever. If satirizing the communist regime in China is a problem to Kralik, then he needs to step down as editor of site and give it to someone else far more capable and competent, then have that head of his checked at a psychiatrist, for he is a tremendous threat to modding. Thankfully, he has already done the former. Mind you, this is only one of Kralik's many ill actions against the modding community. There are plenty more this list that even surpasses my own awareness of his behavior, such as his nepotism with BFMER during the 2021 Modi Awards, purging comments of critics on the servers he is confronted against, and banning them outright over mild jokes they did not even post. I used to give him the benefit of doubt in 2020, but now, I genuinely believe Kralik is a horrible person who cannot be reconciled with. He might be a great mod developer when it comes to his skills. However, he is a terrible administrator who should never be granted any power of authority. In 2021, I discovered that the Doom community went on their own respective purges, with Zdoom and Doom World hunting and crucifying prominent and successful modders over retrospective questionable activities, ranging from a few crude and distasteful jokes to unfavorable political views, to writing swear words in their scripts, to implementing satirical references in their mods. Among those cancelled by these fascists are and Impi III and Tormentor 669. The former simply disagreed with Zdoom's overzealous prejudicial views masqueraded under political and social justice. He was not having any of it, and so Zdoom cancelled him. As for the latter, while it is true his only true mistake is using modders' names in the credits without consent, everything else is still his right to expression, no matter how controversial it is. On top of this, his mod portrayed historical accuracy of the Nazi Germans' actions and mentality during WW2. The hateful Nazi artwork, the torture of prisoners, the concentration camp you have to infiltrate in the third and final chapter, and on top of this, the very fact that it is a fan-made sequel to Wolfenstein 3D fucking Wolfenstein. The Dark Game franchise centered around highlighting the Nazis' sick and sadistic plans, and why the protagonist William Blazkowicz needs to eradicate them from the planet. According to Doom World, making a historically accurate WW2 game is taboo and hateful or constitutes glorification of WW2, and apparently the worst of all, the German government stupidly thinks so as well. Through the website host, the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution, FOFT-POT-C, threatened to suspend his website unless he censored his mod to remove the offensive material, effectively castrating it. This naturally led to many thinking Tormentor was appeasing the woke, myself included. I had since realized this was not the case as I found out he was being forced to. He does live in Germany after all, which sadly creativity laws barely exists here, at least not as powerfully as the USA or UK. Anything that dare treads into Nazi history enters legal hot water and puts its devs at risk of prosecution and possibly jail or prison time. Correct me if I am wrong on that. This is what inspired me to create the Kreisau Circle Edition mod, its goal to restore the content of 3.0 back into 3.1 to work alongside the new features of 3.1, such as achievements. Disgusted at what has transpired, I have also left the Doom community, deleting my accounts from the sites I initially registered on, and never looked back. Anyways, Tormentor, if you are watching this, no hard feeling from the confusion of your 3.1 update back in 2021. I understand your situation, or at least I am trying to by now. Nexus Mod announces their update to their EULA relinquishing ownership of all mods you upload on their site to them. This was the first strike against the company, and already a red flag, or black flag in my case, since lacking ownership is an instant deal breaker for me. Later that same year, Nexus Mods announces they will subjugate creators of any mods that do not align with their political views or are deemed hateful and bigoted. What did this mean? This would be tested with the non-Newtonian New York mod for Spider-Man Remastered, a mod that simply replaces the alphabet flags with regular national flags of United States. Literally harmless. Soon as the mod released, outrage engulfed the social media cesspit that is Twatter. They deleted the mod out of existence on their site and banned its creator Mike Har Har Hawk. Someone else tried to mirror it on moddb, only for it and its mirror provider to be banned by Kralik this year, 2023. Nexus Mods threatens to ban any mods that alters the gender pronouns in Starfield. I believe this was already tested on one mod. There were even older mods that were purged from several modding sites since this entire censorship nightmare happened. Few sites archive them, at least. The overall value of modding has greatly suffered. In addition to our freedom to create being stifled, we now have to contend to wankers exploiting and misusing the modding world for their own personal gain, be it ethically or commercially. It is not necessarily new to find some idiots trying to masquerade their indie games as mods. It has been tried and done for at least 2 decades since moddb's existence. The difference is that those imposter mods would at best be ghosted by the site and never get recognized at all, let alone a single accolade. Worst, it is banned from the site, and possibly the mod devs themselves along with them. Other cases, it is simply converted into a game page, even before IndieDB was created to help mitigate this quality control problem and give indie games a platform to truly shine. Normally, I would not care too much about this lack of quality control, granted the circumstances are tenable. For instance, it is disingenuous for former mods to refuse to accommodate for their critical transformation to an indie game accordingly when time calls for it. When Renegade X transitioned from a UT3 mod to an indie game using UE3, they made an IndieDB page to accommodate the transition. When Hedon transitioned from a Doom 2 mod, or FreeDoom SM, to an indie game using IED Tech 1, GZ Doom port via IPK3 module, they made an IndieDB page to accommodate the transition. When Army Men Extended transitioned from a Half-Life 2 mod to an indie game using UE3, now mainly known as Army Men 3, we made an IndieDB page to accommodate the transition. Many former mods followed this protocol, as was and always is our duty. However, lately others are slacking from their duty to do the same. Examples that comes to mind: Blade of Agony, Trenchfoot. The latter has transitioned into an indie game, same process that Hedon went through, yet refused to make the necessary IndieDB page to accommodate that change and continued to cheat their way through 5th place in the 2021 Mod of the Year Awards, throwing other mods under the bus. My respect for that game and their devs waned. The former simply got lazy and demotivated ever since the cancellation by Doomworld. I still wish Torm or his boys would still make an IndieDB page anyway and grant the community the ability to add mods to their game. KCE is finally done, but I could not append it to their game because their project is not properly categorized as a game, and BOA's modders don't have access to do so as a result. There is even another project, considerably a game, called Age of Doom, which, despite its name, 1, is not a mod for Doom at all, which means it does not even use ID Tech 1, nor requires a Doom WAD file to run, as is thus in the wrong base game category. 2, uses a modified standalone build executable of Age of Empires. However, these are all the least of my problems with terrible quality control on moddb. The worst offenders are the blatant indie games masquerading as mods. Battle for Middle-earth 2, Reforged, Resident Evil, 2 HD reprint, Half-Life Beyond. These are the same projects I mentioned earlier in this video. The first one on the list is the worst offender, as along with Trenchfoot, they have cheated their way through the Mod of the Year Awards, Best Upcoming Mod category in 2021, destroying a third of the integrity of the entire awards. And guess who the fuck was in charge of the accolades and placements? Guess who refused to do his due diligence and research to verify the core essential rule of moddb. whether this project is a mod. Worst of all, it won first place in a modding accolade. Unlike the other offenders in this final point of this video, BFMR is not a gray area. It is nowhere close to a gray area. I wish you idiots would stop pretending it is. One of the developers himself, Maroney, now Red RD, admitted that their so-called mod was in fact a game using Unreal Engine 4. Kralik himself even admitted in the Accolades article that it is in fact a game that runs UE4, indirectly admitting his nepotism for this game winning.
The first place winner for upcoming mods for 2021 is the Battle for Middle-earth Reforged. The team behind this project is introducing the Lord of the Rings The Battle for Middle-earth franchise to a brand new game engine, Unreal Engine 4.
If you are well aware, this project violates the #1 cardinal rule of the Mod of the Year awards, then why in Void's fuck would you allow it to compete in the top 10 to begin with? This was my final straw with Kralik. Myself and another user, Matthijs Ravora, confronted David about this conflict of interest, while also dealing with his bootlicks and brown-nosers like Ni Rubra, who wants to compare the entire situation to a child trafficking operation. How disgusting and moronic can one honestly be? If you stupid fucks would not stand for a A3 game like Dave the Diver stealing accolades in the Summer Game Fest, designed for indie/A1 games this year, how is an indie game stealing accolades designed for mods any fucking different or better? Both are equally as disgusting and pathetic. I left that site for over a year, only returning once Kralik finally abdicated from his position as site admin. I gave it another chance, but that did not last very long. Although Kralik was no longer in power, the damage he contributed to was already done and still growing. Since 2021, more imposters made their way onto the site. The second major offender was Half-Life Beyond, a HL fan game using Unreal Engine 4, posing as a Half-Life mod developed by Deep Velocity Ops. Its founder, G. Clocker, aka Game Sergeant or G_Sergeant, was very abusive and censorious against those of us who pointed out this anomaly, deleting comments and karma bombing us. Myself and a few others, whom were already trying to reason peacefully with him prior to my discovery of his page, reported the project to Intense, and he eventually moved it to the correct website branch category, IndieDB as a game, where it truly belongs. Of course, G. Clocker got ass-hurt and started karma bombing us on the site, deleting some of our comments and nearly all of my comments in particular. Then, on an old comment I made outside of his game, warning others about his project impersonating mods in order to gain accolades in the Modi Awards, he decided to respond to me on the Half-Life page out of the blue with personal attacks. Around the same time he made his first reply, suddenly 2 other users showed up. One, some _ guy, exclusively to troll and annoy me, and another, Snapshot _ now Revionics, who stalks and targets me solely for harassment both throughout moddb and off-site. From initially karma bombing my comments, escalating to review bombing both my own mods through my developer Niotal Empire and the mods of another developer I worked with, Dark Matter Productions, and finally trying to flag down my YouTube videos. He even admitted doing so when I confronted him about him review bombing both Niotal Empires and Dark Matter's mods, which he outright lied about me starting anything, then stated that I deserved it. That subhuman forgot that he was the idiot who started the feud when he replied to my now old and outdated comment on the HL1 moddb page. He went and caused trouble on his own volition and refused to leave me alone. I wanted to save this news for after a separate video specifically on the decline of moddb, but his persistent actions forced me to take a detour and make that video earlier instead. Finally, there is the last offender, Resident Evil 2 HD reprint. This developer has not even bothered to respond yet. He stated he made progress of his project in UE4, revealing that his project is very likely a game. I asked in the comments to verify if it truly is a game using UE4 or if he is just making something external with UE4. Days passed by and no response. He simply ignored my comment. This brought suspicion. With what I am able to gather from his own admissions, this project of his is likely a game masquerading as a mod in the same case as Half-Life Beyond and Battle for Middle-earth, Reforged. The visual and written signs and screenshots are all there. What else is there to say? While Intense finally did something about Half-Life Beyond, he has not yet done anything to BFMER and RE2 HDP, the former posing the largest threat to the integrity of modding. One thing has become certain for me. The moddb community has sunk very hard to a new low. They have forgotten what a mod even is. At this rate, they will accept anything that just stamps mod onto their description or title and consider it as such. I am willing to bet dollars and donuts even paid mods like the Starfield DLSS mod would not only be welcomed on moddb, but praised like the arrival of Gordon Freeman to City 17. This is how scramble-brain and weak the modding community has become. Both within moddb and especially Nexus mods and beyond. My final problem with modding and why the value is declining is the slow and steady rise of commercial mods, especially those under a subscription paywall. Ignoring the Skyrim paid mods fiasco years ago, which thankfully was finally abolished, the main offender of this right now is the Starfield paid mods, specifically Pure Dark's Starfield paid DLSS mod. It does not even surprise me that a cesspit service like Nexus Mods is willfully permitting this greedy and illegal garbage scam to run on their site. Controversial mods that dare to change a few color shades gets the axe, yet literal subscription scams? Let us welcome them all with open arms. Long story short, many hate this mod and its developer for a damn good reason. Same applies for this mod. Apparently, it was already notorious for trying to force its PayPal donation ad into the game in a predatory coded manner. Now, the dev went a step further and tried to justify locking the latest versions behind his Patreon subscription because his mod was rightfully taken down for his greedy monetary malware, allegedly by no other than Kralik. Now I know not if this is true or if he actually just took it down on his own and played victim. Assuming the former is true, I guess that is one of the very few, if any, good things I can say in Kralik's defense. The one thing that Whackjob actually did right. Now you may have some questions of your own. Why does it all matter? Who cares if it's not a mod? So what if they want to charge money for their work? It matters tremendously. The very purpose for the existence of mods is strictly as transformative works of passion. They were never fundamentally designed to be standalone, nor commercial. That is like forcing a square-shaped key into a circle-shaped keyhole. Just because you manage to successfully force it in and damage the keyhole frame in the process still does not mean the square-shaped key legitimately qualifies as a circle-shaped key's replacement. Not only that, but these trends are very dangerous. By allowing them to exist, fester, and grow, we will create a dangerously new precedent that blurs the very distinctive difference between a mod and game. If modding is still a largely unsolved legal phenomenon now, guess how badly this malpractice will affect such uncertainty. We already have enough problems as is with AAA companies shooting down mods that have been established for decades, but at least these companies are the owners of the base games the mods rely on. When we start normalizing paid mods like Starfield DLSS, or allowing indie games to disguise themselves as mods, merely under the excuse of it being a fan-made project. Now we will have to worry about numerous outsider companies like Coca-Cola suing mod devs for featuring their logo, or celebrities like Gordon Ramsay suing Doom modders for using his likeness in meme-based mods. As for the companies already trying to destroy their own modding communities, well now, They will have much more legal ground to stand on and help them achieve their goal than they did before. They won't have to fight as hard anymore. Before we know it, modding as a whole just went belly up, a relic of a lost bloody time. All thanks to all of the dumb fucks encouraging this. I still fight to preserve integrity remains on Diabolical because I fucking care. Diabolical was my life and my home, both moddb and IndieDB. I don't want it to decline and crash asunder. It is where my very first project made its home. It is what helped build my career in game dev before that ultimately kicked the bucket this year. I do not feel the same way with Nexus mods. I used to see that site as an okay platform, but it never was home to me. It was just a secondary backup option if the places I care for ever dropped dead tomorrow. It was an okay platform until the very day it finally stopped being a platform. Now it's nothing but a service, and a horrible one at that. One that now deserves to crash and burn. The only way we will be able to fix this is if we stop being submissive of this future, get off our asses, grow the fuck up, and metaphorically defend our fucking homeland instead of procrastinating about it. If you are unwilling to protect your virtual homeworld, your hobby, your personal and social space, then you deserve to fail. You deserve to suffer. You deserve to metaphorically die. That is all. End of rant video. Needed to get this off my chest. I tried to reason it normally through comments, but as we all know these days, no one cares for that anymore. The only way I can get my voice heard loud enough is for me to do something I fucking hate. Make a stupid fucking video about it. Speak your questions and/or concerns in the comments.